And once again, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the Buffalo History Channel for another episode of Legends of Buffalo Radio. It's been a while since we did this series. I always enjoy doing this and the Soul of Buffalo TV series to talk to some of our legendary media figures that some you may know, some you may not have heard of because you were maybe too young to know, but we're going to introduce to some and reintroduce to others. This gentleman has been on the radio world for quite some time.
No, say it, man. I mean, it's a blessing. I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
I've been on the radio since 1978. So
all right, there you go, 1978.
I'm loving it. Yeah.
You may have heard this man's voice on WUFO and WBLK back in the day. He wasn't just in Buffalo. He went on beyond Buffalo and did some great things in the industry. He'll talk about that as well. Like to welcome to Buffalo History Channel, the legendary Ron Atkins. Ron, welcome to the Buffalo History Channel, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I couldn't have written up any better than that. And before we move on, here's the $100 I promised you if you get me on the TV.
There you go.
You did it. I'll when I see it to you, I'll just slip it to you.
All right, I'll look forward to it. I got a few little bills here and there.
Yeah,
a little gas in the car. You never know.
Yeah, everybody knows that's a joke. Yeah. But man, listen, I'm honored. A great thing just happened. A blessing.
Really,
2 days ago, I got a call from New York Billboard, and they said, "Ron, did you know that you were nominated for the National Black Music Hall of Fame, Broadcasters Hall of Fame?" And I said, no.
Absolutely.
And they said, not only that, but you made it in. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
For 2025. And I said, wait a minute, on a national level? Because, I'm blessed to be able to be in Buffalo's Broadcasters Hall of Fame. But for the National Broadcasters, Black Broadcasters Hall of Fame, I wasn't ready for that, so I got a little emotional. And when I thought about that, I thought about some snotty-nosed kid that went to School 39 on the east side, and then later on to McKinley High School. Okay. Whose mother bought him a radio when I was 13. It was a little white box, and they had a little dial on it, and I think it said, what's the name of the company on it? Because I used to always look. Now, I think it might be Magnavox, but I would listen to KB radio at night, and radio chose me because I knew that's what I wanted to do. I just knew it. I wanted to talk on the radio, and at that point, I just focused. I would tell anybody, especially young people trying to find their way in life, especially when it comes down to a vocation or a job or a career. Man, when you get bit, whatever that is, there's an old saying,
bug.
Yeah, you get that bug. There's an old saying my grandmother used to tell me. She said, son, if you find some way of life that you love, you never have to work a day in your life.
That's right.
There was times I was on the air in Houston and different places, Chicago. I'm making close to $200,000 a year. Okay. I mean, wow. Unbelievable, unheard of for Buffalo at that time. I was making what some of the ball players were making on their entry-level contracts. And one day I just looked in my pocket, saw all these $100 bills. I just said, thank you, God. I said, I don't deserve this. I'm on the radio having fun, talking about people, dealing with people in the community, on the phone, helping people out, cracking jokes, listening to music, R&B, which is the best music in the world. I was doing that, man, and I'm like, bam, you're getting paid for this. Said, really? Mm-hmm. And I never lost sight of that. Yep. So my grandmother was right. Find a career, son, that you love, and you won't have to work a day in your life. And I was blessed for 40 years, man.
Absolutely, man. So let's start from the very beginning. How did you first get into radio? Where did it begin for you?
This is going to shock a lot of the audience. I played football, went to McKinney High School, and I went to Hobart and William Smith College to play football. And in the athletic dorm, there was a radio station, school radio station called WEOS. WEOS, they used to call it. But it sounded just as good as WBLK. He was strong. He was a flamethrower of a station. I wind up having a problem with the coach. I had this big afro, about this big, like Leon Silver's, you know.
His was pretty big.
Oh, man. Yeah. And he wanted me to cut it. I was full of myself. I didn't realize I was making a mistake. I could have been a good player. And I just walked off the team. But it was all provisional. So when I walked off the team, I had all this time in the evening. Instead of going to practice, I was just trying to do something. So I said, man, you know what? This radio thing, I still got this bug. Until I get out of college, I can pursue it later. But right now, what am I going to do? I went downstairs and asked who the program director was. I told him who I was from Buffalo, New York. He said, man, a lot of good DJs come out of that area. You ever think about auditioning for us? I said, yeah. He said, I'll give you a call. Well, he gave me a call sooner than I thought, because like 2 days later, he said one of his afternoon drive jock called in sick. Mm-hmm. Would you mind coming on, just speaking like twice an hour, just make sure your board is tight and everything? I said, sure. Man, I was talking 5 times an hour because I was just so overzealous. I was so excited. Mm-hmm. All these people kept calling me, man, who is this? And the program director came in the next day and said, well, can you come back tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. He said, matter of fact, will you want to work regularly? I said, yeah. So that started me knowing at that point that I had something. Okay. I wasn't ready for New York or Chicago or LA, not even Buffalo. But I knew I had something. So I went home after college was over. I left after my sophomore year, and because I wanted to pursue radio, and I went over to WBLK, talked to Byron Pitts and Danny Harris. Those are my 2 besties that helped me in radio. Byron passed on. I was at his funeral, as a matter of fact. Danny's still alive, and he's still doing radio up in Dallas. And they both helped me put together some air checks. I did some air checks. I went over to WBLK when WBLK had an opening. Freddie Patrick, who I love to death, he really gave me my first shot. And because at WUFO, I was an intern. I was going to buy coffee for people, going to pick up weed for the program director. I mean, I was told, man, you got to do anything and everything to get in the door. Don't just think that somebody's going to say, come on, man, we got an opening for you. You may have to be a flunky.
Yep. Yeah. That's true.
I was ready for it. I wasn't going to hit no casting couch, though.
No, I ain't trying to do all that now.
Hey, I ain't trying to do no P. Diddy stuff. But that was unheard of back then. Now, there was some women that has been known to, I guess, go in that direction, and God bless them. I ain't judging nobody. If that's how you want to get your shot, then that's how you get your shot. But for us, it was just, whatever you had, that's what got you on the air, and that's what helped me. And I stayed on the air for 5 years until I became music director and program director. Frank Lorenz, I want to send a shout out to him. I heard he's still here. I don't know how much of his fortune he still owns, but I know he's still here. And I worked at WBLK, and after I think the 5th year, I'm trying to make this quick because there's a lot of stations I worked at. WBLK in 90, in 83, I got a call from a guy by the name of Jim Snowden. Jim worked overnights at KB during their heyday when they had Danny Neverth, of course, you had Fredericks. You had a lot of big guys there, and he was working overnights. He called me because he had gotten a job in Houston as the morning guy. He said, "Hey man, you want to get out of Buffalo?" And I said, "Yeah," because he was down in Houston. He said, "How cold is this?" I said, "Man, it's 8 degrees." He said, "You want to get out of Buffalo?" I said, "I sure do." He said, "I'll meet you at my crib in Elmira." So I had to get on a puddle jumper and meet him. Oh, it was crazy, man. When they say puddle jumper, you got white knuckles, man. Even for a dark skinned guy like me, it's just like, whoa! You hit those air pockets. Anyway, I met him there when we went down to Houston from there, and I got the job, the program St. Louis, Magic 108 in St. Louis, 1983. Now, here's a great story. First day on the air at Magic 108 St. Louis. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I believe it was April Fool's Day. It was. I had to do afternoon drive. So I'm on the air, feeling really good about myself. I had been in town for about 2 weeks, so I was pretty much acclimated. So I'm on the air doing 3 to 7. Magic 108. So this I have to call myself the showman. This is Ron Atkins, the show, man, and we got some Marvin Gaye coming up next. Hang on in there. And after I said that, coincidentally, the intern came in to the audio studio and says, "You were just talking about Marvin Gaye. He's dead." I said, "No way."
Wow.
No way. Yeah, he's the AP. He's dead. I said, "How he died?" He says his dad shot him. And I said, "What am I supposed to do?" He said, "You got to go on the air and tell everybody in St. Louis, like millions of people, that Marvin Gaye is dead." So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So anyway, I was smart enough to get a bunch of records to play, just in honor, testimony, just type of thing for Marvin. And I'm nervous and I'm sad at the same time because I met him when he was here for that sexual healing tour about 6 months before I even went to St. Louis. First thing I do is get on the air and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ron Atkins, and this is the first day for me on the radio, and it is with a heavy heart that I have to tell you that one of the legends of all time in R&B music, Marvin Gaye, is dead." And I said, "We'll play a tribute this afternoon, and let's just take 2 seconds to bow our heads in prayer." I did that, and man, the whole switchboard just lit up, right? Bam, 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 bam. First call. "Yo, nigga, we know where you are. Don't be playing no games because you coming to St. Louis with no April Fool's joke. We know where you at. We know where the parking lot is." I got call after call. Yo, that's not nice for you to do that, son. We was liking you. You sounded good when you first came out. And I got every call was thinking it was an April Fool's joke.
Yep.
How about that? So after that happened for about 30 minutes, I called my general manager down to Houston, and he said, "Man, listen, you got to go on there and tell people it wasn't a joke, and tell them to go to their TV stations," because it was on the TV at that point. Marvin was that big. And that's what I did. I said, "This is no April Fool's joke. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't stoop that low just to get listeners." And it sort of died down from them. But that was catastrophic, man. It really was. I'll never forget that long as I live.
Yeah, I've got a few stories like that myself when I was
on
the air. I can remember I remember breaking the story of the death of Lisa Left Eye Lopez because the word came in, and I was on the overnight shift
in South America.
Right. Yeah. And then a few months later, I think this was like in the same year now that I think about it, I was doing the Quiet Storm should have been in October. And then I got the word, and I wound up having to announce the death of Jam Master Jay, which
Oh yeah,
really hurt because
yeah.
Run DMC was a favorite, they were my heroes growing up.
They
So
were.
I know that feeling, brother.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
fielding those calls and
Feeling the calls. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that was catastrophic. And after that, man, I spent about 2 years there, and there was an opening at Magic 102.
Mhm.
It was owned by the Amateur Group, and they had an opening, and my ratings just went up. I mean, everywhere I went, I was blessed. Ratings. I mean, that's Buffalo. You know, we're there. There's something about this area with radio. You know, if you get into radio, there's something. I ain't gonna say mysterious. It's just something different, and it's a blessing to people that radio because we really wind up growing some real good talent here, just programming and on the air. Some of the best of all time. You got the biggest name would be Frankie.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Frankie would be the biggest one.
Frankie Crocker, yep.
Frankie Crocker, and then come on, name a couple of them.
Oh,
Gary Bird.
Gary Bird.
Jerry Bledsoe.
Absolutely.
You got Jerry Bledsoe. You got she was Laura Dean on the air.
Laura Dean, Lynn Hayes now.
Lynn Hayes.
Darcel Howell.
Darcel.
Dr. D.
Yes.
Darcel Holloway.
Yeah, yes.
Reverend Dr. Darcel Holloway.
You better call her that too.
Absolutely.
And make sure you put that doctor in there.
Oh, Dr. D, absolutely.
Yeah. There's quite a few. Like I mentioned, Danny Harris. And
want to give a special shout out to the man who was the first, also Jimmy Lyons.
Jimmy Lyons, yeah, he was a little bit before me.
Yeah.
But I had heard about him. I heard he was on WUFO,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Launched it. He set it off. Yep.
Right. Gary Bird, the IMO-TEP.
Also Eddie OJ.
Eddie OJ. Absolutely. Matter of fact, the fabulous OJs were named after him. Mm-hmm. Had a Cleveland connection there.
Yeah.
You know, there's too many names. I know I'm going to forget somebody's name, but there's a lot of them that came from Don Early Allen.
Yes.
Now, when Don was on the air, Don was in the Guinness Book of Records, Doug, for being the youngest full-time announcer in America. He was 16. He went to, this is how bad this boy was. He went to Hutch Tech during the day. When he got off that bus, he ran on over to WUFO or WBLK. He was at BLK and WUFO at the same, like within like a year or something like that. But he went and did afternoon drive. It sounded very good. So good that somebody drafted him out of here, you know.
Absolutely.
Used to be in Buffalo. If you had a name for yourself, because this is a proving ground.
Yes, it is.
You wouldn't stay here. You wouldn't stay here long.
Yep.
Just a matter of when you could pack your bags.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to WOWI. Oh, I had a situation, and I have to mention this and give his due. It's a little testimonial. I got caught up in drugs at the end of my Magic 102 stint the first time. And I tell you, it was a learning experience that I would never want to forget, because I was able to help some people too, because I went through it and I showed people there, people that knew me, my family. I got a lot of support, people in the business, that it ain't over until God says it's over. And I learned my lesson. Stay away from that stuff. It was cocaine and alcohol, and it was real big that day. People were falling like flies. Athletes were just dying from it. But God saved me, and I was able to walk away. Some downtime, I got some help. And I wind up getting back into radio. A guy by the name of Steve Crumley, he used to do all of Alan Haymann's concerts, and the guy sounded so good. He wind up giving me a chance after, I fell, and I was able to get back on my feet. But it's funny how God works. The best was yet to come. So when I lost my job at Magic 102 because of personal reasons, somebody thought enough of me to want to give me another chance. God bless Steve. I love you, man. And I went to WYLD, and we wind up becoming the Billboard radio station of the year. One of the biggest. Sean Ross did a article on the top 10 radio battles in the country, and we were number 2. Somebody said we should have been number 1, and we beat the famous Q93. That was a flame-throwing CHR station that played majority of their music. Seemed like it was R&B at the time. And Jerry Clifton was he was one of the hottest consultants in the country. He was a consultant there. When I came in there, man, this is the grace of God. YLD had just gutted the station because there was a lot of crap going on, a lot of payola, a lot of dark stuff. They wanted to clean Mr. Lewis, who was a banker out of Chicago. Him and Jim Hutcherson came in, and they wanted to clean it up and try to make some money with it. So they're a heritage station like WBLK. Well, they wind up bringing me in, thinking they could, resuscitate the station. We had an 8.2 share my first day on the air, 8.2 share. When I left a year and a half, we had a 15 share, doubled. And we became just priority number 1 station in that market. And it was tough to leave. I wish I would have stayed in New Orleans. Oh my gosh, the gumbo, the people. Oh man, it's just once you get to New Orleans and you get a crib or someplace to live, and you get caught up in the culture and the people, man, people will stop by your house and give you food. And if you got something wrong, get your lights cut off, somebody will come and give you some money to get them back on. It's just, man, that's a beautiful place. New Orleans, absolutely.
Man, oh
yeah.
Man.
So then I stayed there, and then after that, I stayed there for 1 year and a half. Then after that, I went back to Magic 102, which was the worst move I ever made.
We've all made a few of those.
Yeah, right. It's the green. What's the old adage? Sometimes the grass is not greener.
Grass is not greener on the other side.
On the other side. Mm-hmm. I had already been there. I was trying to go back. Let this be a lesson. I was trying to go back and clean up my name because I fell so hard from the drug situation that occurred when I was there the first time. I should have left it alone. I went back trying to do that, and all hell broke loose for me. Everything bad. I got into arguments with people. Me and the general manager almost got into fisticuffs. It was really bad, and it got worse after that. I went to WVAZ, which is, oh man, one of the top urban ACs in the country, and brought them to number 1. But I was having marriage problems, and a couple of the jocks I got into problems with, a lot of jealousy, and it was okay. There was a guy by the name of Barry Mayo. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's just a genius general manager who wound up being a owner of the station, part owner of that. He taught me so much about life in general. taught me a lot about radio, but he taught me a lot about life. Then I ended up in Pittsburgh at WAMO-FM. Stayed there for 20 years almost. Loved it. Got really familiar with the market, the people, forged a lot of strong relationships. Jerome Bettis, a personal friend of mine, I got to hang out with him, go to the stadium, bring my children there and work out. There's a lot of good memories. There's a couple of bad memories that ended my tenure there. One was the station was involved in a hostile takeover about 2008. The owner, Ron Davenport, they say he owed Wells Fargo about $5 million, and he had some money that he wanted to turn over so he could pay that debt off and then do something else. And they sold the station May 15th, 2009, 3:00 in the afternoon. They had sheriffs with guns there because they thought that we were going to, create some unrest. But that didn't happen. And obviously, 37 of us got let go. At the end of that, I should have started another part of my life, but I wind up making a bad decision trying to start an internet station. And I would have been better off just doing a podcast for what it's worth. And I lost a lot of money from that. Then I wind up coming home. My mom got sick. And but it's been a good ride. I mean, to go through all of this and still become a member of the prestigious National Black Broadcasters Hall of Fame, man. This is a testimony to, the goodness of God and just staying with what brought you there. Hold on to your guns, man. So there's going to be a time in your life you're going to be really, really, really low. And there's times you're going to be really, really high.
Ron, do me a favor. You're kind of going off to the side on your camera.
Oh, good.
There you go. Right there.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right.
There's going to be times when you're going to be really low, such as life. There's going to be times you're going to be really, really high. I think one of the things to remember is trying to keep things in perspective, trying to keep in that middle range, because you're never as good as people say you are, or your press clippings, and you're never as bad and dastardly as they call you from time to time, your enemies and stuff like that. But try to keep it somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to Buffalo a bit. You started off as an intern at WFO. Do you have any stories from that experience that you could share with working with people at WFO back in the day?
Right. I remember Mr. Mullins, Don Mullins. You remember that name?
Oh, yes.
I always had I looked up to him as almost like a god, because, Mr. Mullins had that Harvard type persona, always fresh tie and suit and shirt, and drove a nice car, and he was always making deals. But he was always nice enough to say hello when he went in and out of his office. He would catch me around there pretty often, especially toward the end for me, meaning that before I went to WBLK, he showed some interest in me. I remember one time I was in the back. Now, I wasn't getting paid. I was an intern, a real intern. I called myself Ron Brown at the time, for lack of a better name. Byron Pitts, man, change your name, man. You sound like a football player. I said, yeah, I'll come up with something. So I remember being in the studio doing an air check. And Mr. Mullins said, well, give me an air check. I got some ideas. So I put the air check together, and he listened to it. And he said, man, he called me kid. He said, kid, you got something. You got something. And he said, just keep working at it. So I got some things that's getting ready to turn here soon. Just keep coming around. Just continue being loyal. And that's what I did. Like I told you, even before I got a shot to start doing air checks, there was a guy by the name of Marty Marte. He was the program director there. And he used to smoke weed in the studio, and people knew it. And he'd be spraying stuff in there. Marty Marte at WUF, we'll be right back after this. I'm like, dude, that was him. But he'd have me go over and go on Glenwood and pick up some weed and stuff. But I did it because he said, Champ, he started coming to him. He said, Champ, you got a career. You got a career. Just keep going to get me this weed. We'll get you on the air. No, I actually didn't say that, but I was a gopher. But the thing about it, what gave me the hope, there's something in the Bible where it says tribulation causes perseverance, perseverance causes character, and character leads way to hope. Okay. Mm-hmm. The tribulation to me was doing everything I could to get to that station. And sometimes it meant stealing my mom's car before she went to work because I just was so hell bent on making sure that Marty was satisfied with what I was doing and anything else. I just had to get a job. So that's the tribulation I went through, but it caused me to persevere because I never took my eye off the prize. I remember my mother was cooking dinner one day, and this is right around the time that I got the job at BLK. And she said, son, you're out of school. She said, you spent a lot of time at WUFO. I know those guys are making you a runner. I know that. The word's on the street. You're a go-getter. I don't want you to be a laughing stock. And she said, is this radio thing? Why is this burning inside you? What is this? I said, Mom, I can't explain it. I don't know myself. I just know that every day I wake up in the morning and I hear myself on the radio. Every day I have a desire to become part of that business, to be a star. I want to be a star in the radio. She said, you really think you're going to make it? She said, tell me, son. Tell me that, and I will support you, and I'll never ask you again. She said, look me in the eye and tell me you're not wasting your time. Doug, I looked her in the eye. I said, Mom, I know this is where I belong. Tears start coming down her face. Never forget it. She passed on, but tears start coming down her face. She said, you go get that now. That was it.
There you go.
Nothing can stop me, bro.
All right. So let's transition on to WBLK. Any kind of stories that you could share for our audience from WBLK?
Man, there's one story at WBLK that I gotta tell. And it was my baptism into full-time radio. I had just gotten a job to do full-time nights. And I had to work till 11 o'clock. It was 7 to 11. Actually 7 to midnight. But NBN News came on and they did some special for an hour. And I got tired one Friday night, so I wanted some pizza. And we had a pizza place on Allen, and they would deliver it within 10, 15 minutes. I ordered the pizza. It was cold. It was November, might have been 15, 20 degrees. I had a white t-shirt because the studio used to be very warm over there in Franklin, 429 Franklin.
Yep.
And we were up on the top. It used to be a mansion. Mm-hmm. And I ordered pizza. They called me on the phone. We didn't have cell phones back then. They called me on their request line. Ron, we got your pizza. So I said, I'll be right down. On the intercom, I came downstairs and I went. Pizza was probably only $5. I got the $5. I gave it to the guy. And as I turned around, it was a windy day. right? As I turned around to grab the pizza, the wind blew the door shut. Boom! And we both looked at each other. He said, "You got the key, don't you?" I said, "Yeah."
You ain't got the key?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Oh, boy.
No, I don't have the key. He said, "Oh, snap." He said, "You're the DJ on the air? You don't have the key?" And he started laughing. I didn't think it was funny, man.
That's not a laughing moment at all. As a joke. Coming from a jock's perspective, that is not a laugh. It's not a moment to laugh.
I had just gotten a full-time job. I knew I was going to get fired. I knew it. I knew it. I put the pizza down. It was an afterthought after that, because there's going to be a frozen pizza after that. What do you think I did? Now, this is God. Now, this is God's hands all over this. I'm down where there's all lawyers, Delaware Avenue, all lawyers and highbrow people, Harvard people, Cornell people. So anyway, I'm talking about the regular houses they live in. Something said, knock on people's windows and just say, "Hey, I got locked out. Can you help me? I'm the jock on WBLK." I started knocking on people's windows, their doors, and they were coming to the door. They saw a black man in a T-shirt. Know that I ain't got no business over there. And nobody came to the door. Nobody. I'm going to fast forward about 20 minutes later. I'm so scared. It's 8 degrees, man, but I'm not feeling no cold at all. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do I tell people I worked hard for this? I'm going to get fired. So I told you this is provisional. I got around the corner and I see 2 police coming around the corner, had their lights on, and they said, come here. So I run over. What are you doing? We just saw you come. So we got a call from some crazy black man that's knocking on people's doors. Is that you? I guess so it is. I got locked out at WBLK. So the cops started laughing. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, they said, well, you probably should bust the window because at least you'll still be on the air. What are you going to do?
A police officer told you that?
Huh? Yeah, they told me to bust the window. So then, this is where God came in. I don't know if you remember, he has the same last name as me. Tom Atkins. He used to be on KBW weekends. He was always filming. He was always on. He was the engineer. He was one of the chief engineers. Well, he used to hang out at, there was a Deco's restaurant on Main and Franklin.
Okay.
It came to me and said, man, what if he's there? What if he's there right now? So I said, he said, where do you want us to take you? They were getting frustrated at that point because I didn't want to break the window. So I said, well, Tom is usually at that restaurant sometimes. Can we go by there? Man, do you know he was in there having a cup of coffee and a donut? Tom, he's the engineer. He laughed. He said, well, let's go back and open up the door. He let me back into the studio. I was only off the air about an hour and a half.
Wow.
And nobody knew it.
And even sometimes an hour and a half can seem like an eternity depending on what shift you're on.
Right. But here's how God saved me. After the news, NBN News, they would switch on Fridays to disco at WBLS. So we had the disco feed from WBLS running over WBLK.
Wow. That's provisional. It definitely is.
And for Tom to be at the restaurant at that time. At that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't listen to the cops. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I've had a pretty amazing career, man. There's a lot of people that have had their fingerprints on my career or close to it. And I just want to thank everybody,
Absolutely.
that helped Ron Atkins live out his dream that his mother co-signed
Mm-hmm.
before she went to heaven.
Something I wanted to was we're going to be coming to the close of it pretty soon, but I
Yeah.
asked this of all the jocks and all the legends on here that they come working in being in the radio, being on TV. There's a standard of excellence that came with being a Buffalo personality. And I remember when I was at WUFO hearing stories where if somebody was in the studio and they weren't really on point on the air, sometimes the program director would take you out of the studio right in the middle of the show, take off your headsets and come on out. So there was definitely the standard of excellence, for you and your delivery was everything back then.
Right. I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of disc jockeys on other stations, like CKLW out of Windsor. I listen to WWRL in New York, WOL, Washington, DC. I just was all over. I was listening to what I thought were tried and true examples of what I wanted to be. And I would listen to those air checks before I got on the air. And man, that is what really caught people's attention with me, because I knew there was a standard of professionalism, and I knew what that sounded like. And that's the way Buffalo was. We had a professional sound that people coming through. Same thing with Cleveland. They say Cleveland was the same way. A lot of jocks would come through Cleveland too. Nothing like Buffalo radio, man.
Absolutely.
Better than beef on weck. Better than chicken wing.
That's right. That's right. So in closing, because I'm not going to keep you too much longer, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience and those that may be your former listeners?
I just think people that listened to me while I was on the air in Buffalo, I want to just thank them for giving me a chance to be in their cars or in their homes, in their bedrooms, in their bathrooms, wherever. And we forged a real strong relationship that even now, when people find out that I'm in the room or that Ron Atkins, and people come over and say, I remember you. Mm-hmm. But that's real important to me, man. I had an opportunity to touch somebody in a way. See, people don't realize back then, even more than now, radio is very personal. It's more personal than any other, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Format, I guess.
Yeah.
Because all you have is one dimension, and that's your voice, to be able to capture somebody. And if you really do a good job at it, and you're blessed with a good voice and you know how to use it, you can actually capture people's attention, and you wind up being that one friend that somebody. I've heard people saying that they have talked people off of committing suicide on the air. And when you hear those stories, you definitely want to, congratulate them. I think that happened at WBLK one time. I forgot who it was, but yeah, you become friends, man. People, you forge relationships. That's what it's about. It's different now, though.
Yeah. So you said you used to be a program director. What would throughout your career, what would go through your mind when you're programming give our viewers some insight into what goes into programming a station?
It's almost like being a coach, but I knew I wanted to be a program director because I thought I could. I thought I could do better than the program director we had, and he's passed on now. His name was Lee Zimmerman at WBLK, and he has some ethereal view of WBLK, which wasn't in line with the culture and the history of Black radio and the Black community. he was doing something different to it. And I didn't like that. And I went into the general manager's office and said, you can fire me tomorrow, but something is wrong. And he closed the door. I thought he's going to fire me. You know what he said? He said, right. Do you want to become program director? I said, yeah. He said, hold tight. And he gave me the job about him and Freddie. Freddie went to general manager and they made me the program director. I think with being a program director, you got to have a vision of, people tease me about the 6 Ps when they see me. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performances. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performances. You need a plan. And instead of the shotgun approach where you're just going to shoot everything, you're just going to do everything willy-nilly, have a plan together where you're a sniper. So you know what you got to do. And you just, with skill and precision, you take care of it. Just one step at a time. But you got to be focused on whatever the plan is that the general manager is going to tell you what he wants if he's worth his salt. He's going to say, I want women 25 to 54. That usually used to be the money sell. Okay. I want these numbers. And at that point, I knew enough about radio. What is it that women between 25 and 54 like more than anything? Well, it's The Quiet Storm. And it's a good morning show where they like to laugh and they like information. So I would do that. I used to love radio so much, Doug, that I just would pick people's brains all the time. And I knew basically what it was about, what you need to do. One thing I did learn outside of Buffalo that I thought I knew was I thought you could just talk whenever you want to. When I got out of here, man, my gentleman, shut the hell up, play some music. Now he didn't disrespect me like that, but that's basically what he was saying in meetings. He said, "You guys talk too damn much."
Balancing between the music and the talking,
yeah. Morning shows is tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
Morning, They want to hear talk. You better be good talking. It better be information. But when people want to hear their songs, especially in middays, they don't want to hear all this. My general manager said, man, don't be telling people the weather in afternoon drive or in midday. Nobody wants the weather. You want the weather in the morning. People want to know, how should I dress today and what should I wear when I'm coming home from work? Those little nuances I learned as a program director. And I became a student of it, like a Harvard law student. I just dug deep into the nuances of what made a radio station a great radio station. My boss told me, he said, Ron, if you want a great station, don't forget about this one thing. The difference between a good station and an okay station is attention to detail. And that's what I learned most coming out of Buffalo. Detail. That was it. Dot every I, cross every T.
All right, Ron. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you, to finally get you on the Buffalo History Channel as part of the Legends of Buffalo radio series.
Thank you, man. You're a great host, man. And my next career, I hope we're doing the same thing.
Absolutely, brother. All right. Good to have you, man.
God bless you, man. Love you.
All right, brother.
Okay.